All right, welcome everybody. We are here with Nick's Lotus. Go check out his
Hello.
channel if you haven't. Um, all right, well, so Nick does. I'm just gonna call you Nick because it's Nick's Lotus.
That's good. That works.
So yeah, well, he does a YouTube channel as well, and it's probably better than mine. Let's be honest. It's it's
No,
it's
no,
really
no.
high quality. I don't just watch your videos. I love watching your videos. I was just watching some today actually, and I was like,
Mhm.
whoa, I like it's so crisp, and I just like it.
Appreciate it. Means a lot.
What kind of editing stuff do you use? Is it
Right now, I use the free version of DaVinci actually.
oh
DaVinci
nice.
Resolve. It streamlines the process so much. Like the interface is so much easier than everything else I tried. And they give you so much stuff like for it being a free version.
Yeah.
So
Oh
love
yeah.
it.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try it. I know I've downloaded it and I keep
hmm
keep trying to. I've been using Premiere for years, so
Also super
this
good.
is the one, yeah. But yeah, what so is your name a play on Nick's Lotus
It
from
is.
okay, good.
Well,
Like, oh, I
it's
got it.
funny that you said that because on my channel Discord, one of the people that are in it pulled a foil Nyx Lotus out of one of their packs, and he's
Nice.
like, "Just pulled this out of my pack, and it clicked why your name is your name." And I was like, "That's so funny." It's like that's the best way it could have clicked.
Oh, that's awesome. That's that's really sweet. I love when that kind of thing happens.
It's great.
Oh wow, I it's the light.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. Love it.
That's awesome. Well, okay, so I actually had this question on here, but then I was watching your videos and I was like, oh, he said in this video it was your the it was a recent video just from
Mhm.
this week of um like some great cards that are under $5.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And there was one from the original Ravnicas when you said you started. Is that
Yes. Oh my gosh, love that set so much. So good.
yeah. I've looked at that set a lot. I mean I didn't start till Battle for Zendikar, so a
Super
little
good set though.
yeah. Yeah, so I've got a real soft spot for Battle for Zendikar, but
100%.
yeah. What did you like most about the original Ravnica set?
There was I talked about this a little bit on one of my live streams. Like I feel like Wizards' approach to world building has kind of like changed a little bit. I like how they used to approach world building a lot. Like it felt like it was like a lived in world, and you would find like goofy people in the world, and like serious people, and people that are taking part in the war, like the war that's going on. People that
Yeah.
like don't believe in the war. You know what I mean? Like how it would be in real
Hmm.
life. There'd be these different people in real life. Um, and I just loved how it felt like you were just like a part of the clan you were playing as. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Like Gruul was just like my favorite thing when I first started playing. I've kind of moved away from Gruul a little bit, but
Uh-huh.
when I first started playing, just the Timmy cards were so appealing, and Ravnica had plenty of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, I think I agree too with I think the last set they stopped a bigger world building type thing was Tarkir. It was like their
100%.
last three block set, and then they had this really cool, really integrated story. And like Battle for Zendikar, yeah, it had a story, but that block was, I mean, it's their first. I think it was the first two block set,
It was
and
awesome.
two set block. Yeah,
Tarkir's fantastic. Like you had like Zergo and like Anafenza, and you felt like you were like in different like viewpoints of what was happening in Tarkir. I loved that set. Such
oh
a good
yeah,
one. I wish they do the block sets so much. Those
yeah,
were so good.
yeah. I bet you one day they'll go back to a block set.
I'm sure.
Everything's kind of just moved so fast, and yeah, I do agree with like I don't know. You can notice with like Kaldheim, you're like, oh, this is Kaldheim, and like that's all you got. Like this is all the people, but you didn't really learn to love the world.
100%. Well, and like you just said, like this is all you got is like a perfect way to sum it up because it's like we only have one set to do this, so we have to depict the entire world building in one set, which is super hard to do. Like over three sets, it's super hard to get like a like almost like you're reading a story almost like when you have the block sets, it's like you're getting the introduction to why these things are happening in the world, the middle's like the conflict, and then you get the resolution in like the last set. And it's just kind of weird to get all three of those in one set because you get like cards from different points of the story, in like, you know what I mean? It's a little confusing
Yeah.
almost from the world building point of view.
Yeah. Like they've got the story spotlight cards, but it's like, oh, at the
Yeah.
beginning here, there's this character, but then in the same pack, I've got that character just died. Like what?
I just pulled the Atraxa, and Atraxa's getting
Oh
smoked
yeah.
on this card I just pulled. So I don't
Yeah.
I don't know how that works. Like totally.
Oh yeah. Well, that's how I felt too. Like going back to Kaldheim, with the latest. I don't know. It's not really the latest, but
Mhm.
um, March of the Machine.
Yeah.
That one, I was like, oh, I guess we're kind of back to Kaldheim a little bit because of the World Tree,
Yeah.
but I wasn't really attached to it.
Exactly. I had no real like love for the world tree or anything. Like there wasn't enough world building for me to really care that much about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's super super bizarre.
It is. Like I look back at I think the best example of like a perfect set like block for me would be like the Lorwyn and like Mirrodin or not Morning Tide, like
Yeah.
Lorwyn, Morning Tide, Shadowmoor. That was like my favorite block of all time. If I had to pick like favorite block, favorite set, it'd probably have to be those. Just because that like the world building was so good. And I like if you know me, like I hate tribes. Like I do not play tribal decks at all.
Yeah.
So it's really funny that that's my favorite block because it's like so full of tribes.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. I just remember there's that video by Pretty Deece that's all about
Mhm.
like what the Lorwyn championship deck looked like, and it
Oh
was
my
just
god, yes.
so weird.
So weird. They had the most bizarre decks during that block. I loved it. Like kitchen sphinx or kitchen finks, is that what it's
Kitchen
called?
pink. Yeah,
Oh my god, I loved it. There's so many cool cards from that set.
yeah. There's a lot of like kind of like twisting the rules type of things,
Yeah.
and I just yeah,
Like
that's
there's
good.
this chaos was like a good sum up of that set. Just
Yeah.
crazy stuff happening all the time.
Well, and that block it had 4 sets in it, which I thought was
Oh
interesting.
yeah, it did. I completely forgot about that. Loved that's probably why I like it so much.
Yeah,
Even more world building. Love it.
it's because it's like each set was different, but each set was like add just a little bit more to that world.
It almost felt like they took like the world and like cut it into fours. And they were like, we're
Yeah.
gonna devote each set to like really diving deep into like a different section of the world. So good.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah, again, don't get it anymore.
Not really. Nope.
um, so jumping in from that, like, is that something that tied into you wanting to build like a YouTube channel for Magic? Was that kind of lore building, or was it something
Uh
else?
a lot of it was just like how big of a part of my life Magic was, like when I was younger. So this channel actually started in like 2010,
Oh,
like
nice.
when I was, how old would I have been? 12. When I was 12, so 12 years ago. Yeah. um and it was just like a deck tech channel where I had like I can't remember what they were called, but they were like the little cameras that were like bricks, and they had a big lens on the front, and they get like a USB flicked
Oh
out of the
yeah,
side. You
I
remember
think I
those?
remember those. Yeah,
I had one of those, and I was like, I'm gonna make Magic videos with this. This is awesome. So I just like set it on my desk and would just like fold through or fan through my decks and be like, I'm running this card, I'm running this card, I'm running this card,
nice.
and like fold through my trade binders and stuff, and just stuff that I thought was interesting when I was younger. And then I kind of stopped making videos around like 2012, 2013, and kind of hopped off until like a year ago, and then got back onto making them, and they got pretty good reception. So I'm sticking
Nice.
to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty great. Let's see what. Yeah, I know this channel. It's weird because I started this channel in like 2015 or something,
Okay.
but it was like one video a year or something ridiculous,
Mhm.
and nothing to do with Magic. And I started doing like pen reviews and like
I was
office
watching some
supplies
of those
type
at one
stuff.
point the
Yeah,
other day.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
watching those pen reviews the other day. I think that's cool. Whatever
Yeah.
you're.
I think it's neat. I was like, I worked at Staples for 3 years, so I was
Mhm.
like selling pens every day. I was like, these are really interesting,
Yeah.
but it didn't like spark my passion, And I was like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna switch it.
100%. I think that's the only thing that really matters. Whatever you're passionate about, go do it. Even if it's pens, if it's anything. Like honestly, like I don't have any particular interest in pens, but like hearing someone talk about one and being interested in it, I'm like, that's really cool. I like hearing
Yeah,
like the ins and outs of it and all
yeah.
that.
It's pretty. Yeah, that's what it's like. The enthusiasm is more infectious. And you're like, I don't care, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. So when you're making content or like when you're watching content, what's the type of stuff you want to see in videos? Like what turns you on to like the like turns you off and then turns you on to like certain channels?
Yeah. Well, like we were just saying, the the passion behind something. Like if someone's really into it, that's just one way that I get really into it. I like humor a lot. That's something that gets to me. I just like when things are funny. It's probably just my ADD brain. I lose attention and I'm like, all right, give me back. I really like that a lot. I like people that have like a niche that they're like super deep on, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
when I watch a channel and I'm like, oh, this one specific thing they're like very, very deep on, to the point of like knowing so many facts about it. You could ask them anything on it and they're like, boom, got it. That's kind of like the whole like, because I'm not really like that with anything. I felt like
Mhm.
no, like I couldn't be the guy that was like asked a question about something and I'm like, gotcha. Like I couldn't be that
Yeah.
dude. So that was almost kind of like the allure of like making a channel as well, especially the daily card highlights. Cause I was like, I kind of want to be that dude with like magic cards, to be like, oh, that's this card. Like that card's really good. This goes in this deck type stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I just love when people get really into like a niche and just are passionate about it. That's my number one for sure.
Nice. Yeah. I feel like it so I'm for work I do audio visual type stuff. So
Nice.
I'm usually hypercritical of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Unfairly so, because I'm like, oh well, I'm an editor, so this is like this looks wrong and this looks wrong or this sounds bad or whatever.
100%.
But like if the person is super into the content and like I can tell they put a lot of effort into it and it's good content and like a good video, like I'm gonna stick to the end and watch it.
100%.
And that's a lot with like all the magic content that's out there. Some of it I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's not really for me.
Yeah, but like you were saying, like like you're in the cameras and photography and all that stuff. So when you see the editing mistakes, it kind of sits with you a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of the similar thing when you're looking for channels. Like you understand the process behind building a channel because you also are running one right now.
Mhm.
So you understand that like it takes a second to like understand what your niche is, like how you portray your voice, like how you deliver. So like you understand that some of these videos you're watching that you're like, nah, this isn't the best video I've ever seen. It's like, well, yeah, they're like getting their footing. They're trying to figure out like what their channel is going to be. So like the value of watching that all the way through is definitely there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I see some of my stuff from like 3 years ago, and I'm like, this is total garbage.
I see stuff from like a week ago, and I'm like, oh man, I'm like, why did
Yeah,
we
yeah.
decide to do the Boston accent on that one? I don't know.
I think I'm pretty sure I saw that one. It was pretty good.
For sure. I always slip into like a, I don't know if you ever watched a video game Donkey, the YouTuber.
Oh, dude, I love
I
Donkey.
slip into like a donkey type persona every now and then, and it's always funny. Someone left a comment on one of my first videos that's like, "You're like the video game donkey of magic," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I rewatched it, and I'm like, "Oh hey there," and like doing that voice. I'm like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "That's totally donkey." Like
Dude, that's awesome. That's it's those comments that really get you, like
they do.
really
I'm
drive
like, "All
you.
right, cool,
Yeah.
hell yeah, I love donkey."
Oh yeah. Dude, Donkey's awesome. Um, so with okay, so something I really like about your content with it's like watching those daily videos, which I think
Mm-hmm.
are fantastic.
Thank you.
You really take the like you take the card and then you sell it. I'm like,
Yeah,
I will never run this card, and then you do a video. I'm like,
hundred
I'm
percent.
gonna run that card. I
That's
gotta go
so
get it
funny because
now.
we when we were talking about pens a second ago,
Yeah.
I almost thought of the Wolf of Wall Street, like sell me this pen
Oh yeah.
thing. And then that's so funny because that's totally the kind of energy I have behind each video is like sell me this card. It's like make it
Mhm.
appealing to me. That's super funny.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I just saw I think he did do the Boston accent in I think it's like Grave Robber or something from Rivals of
Oh
Ixalan.
yeah, Tomb
And
Tomb Robber,
Tomb
whatever.
Robber, yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
so good.
I was like, wow, I've like you said in the video, you're like, I don't remember this card at all. And
Nope.
I saw it and I was like, what the heck is that card? I thought I'd seen every card in that set. But
There's so many cards like that I have in a folder where I'm like, how? Or there's cards where it's like such a like notably just obvious powerful card, but then you look it up on EDH and it's in like 500 decks,
yeah,
and you're like, what's going on? Like, does did my like area get all of them? That's what it feels like.
yeah, yeah. I see stuff like that all the time. Or like, there's a lot of common cards that I see. So I love Pauper, and so I see all these common cards. I was like, this is a really good card. Like,
Oh
I'm
man,
always raving about Kiln Fiend. Kiln
Kiln
Fiend's
Fiend's so
fantastic.
good. I love Kiln.
Like, this is a 2 mana common, and it's
Hmm.
stronger than some
It's
rares.
huge.
You know,
I
pretty.
love that. I want to start playing Popper actually. I'm very interested in it.
Yeah, I really want to do a lot more Pauper stuff because
You should.
it's so good, and like all the meta decks are less than $100. So like,
That's awesome.
cool. I'm just gonna build this. Like the most expensive card in my Pauper deck is like Manamorphose, and it's like $6. But I mean, there's 4 of those, and then the rest of the cards are super cheap.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I really want I want more Pauper.
Yeah.
That's
You
my,
have a do you so is Popper like a commander alternative or is it Popper's just all commons?
so Pauper is, if it's been printed as a common, you can play it. Like Counterspell is used to be an uncommon, but then it got printed once as a common.
Okay.
Boom, it's Pauper legal. So
Nice.
like stuff like that, and then it's a 60 card format, and so you can get 4 copies and all
Nice.
that kind of stuff. But you can do Pauper Commander as well with
That's
a
cool.
specifically an uncommon legendary creature, and then the rest of the cards have to be commons.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, I think it's neat. I think it's a
That is cool.
super budget friendly, still fun way to play.
100%. Well, and it taps into like why I love deck building so much too. It's like I
Yeah,
like challenging myself, so having all commons is like exactly that.
yeah.
That's
It's
cool. Do you have a Popper commander deck?
I don't yet,
You don't? You should
but the
build.
one I want to do is, um, oh, what is it called? There's a common legendary that came out in the Commander Legend set that like pairs with, it's got partner and you can pair it with
Hmm.
anything, and it's like name a color and then it becomes that color basically.
Oh,
And I
it's
can't
like
remember
the
his name.
faceless one or whatever.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
one. There's like another one that came out that partners with a background or something.
yeah. It's like there's like the background one and then
That one.
the
That's
other one.
awesome.
But I was like,
That's a good
then
idea.
the whole deck is actually Pauper, and I could just name a color, and it's a monocolor
That's
deck.
really cool.
But
Heck yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Um, okay, so jumping from that,
Mhm.
from like our kind of favorite stuff. What's your favorite card of all time?
My favorite card of all time.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's only like 50,000 to choose from.
yeah, it's not that hard. If I had to pick one, I would probably pick. I have to. I might have to pick two. I might have to.
Ooh.
I might have to have a tie here between Figure of Destiny.
Oh yeah, the red white one.
Yeah, that you can level up and does all that.
Mhm.
Because when I was young, I had a white weenie deck and
Oh
went into the
nice.
store and I was running it like before the tournament started. And
Mhm.
one of the store people was watching me and they're like, yeah, Figure of Destiny's in this thing. And I was like, it was like 30-40 bucks at the time. And I was
Mhm.
like, no, I was like, I don't have the money for those. And he like pulls out his binder and pulls out 4 of them and gives them to me. And he's like, you can run these till the end of the tournament. And I was like, oh, and I like swapped them out for these commons I had. And
Yeah,
I came in like second or third, but that was
yeah,
just like the coolest memory. I loved that.
that's awesome.
Um, and the other one's probably Honor the Pure, just because it's another great
Yeah.
white weenie card. 1 and a white for an enchantment, and it gives all your white creatures +1/+1.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I did like Elite Vanguard into Honor the Pure was like my
Oh,
favorite thing to do of
nice.
all time. And then just Knight of the White Orchids, White Knights, all
Hmm.
the white weenie stuff I love. My favorite cards a lot of the time involve white weenie just because that was such a big part of like why I'm into the game so much.
Yeah. So, would you say white's your favorite color?
That's what's so weird. It was for so long because I was a standard player. I played white weenie. It was my favorite color. But now that I've gotten more into commander, I would have to say my favorite color is probably blue, but like not for the same reasons most people say blue. Like I like the fact that I can sit down with the blue deck and someone's like, "Oh god, they're running blue." And then I can immediately follow it up with like, "I don't run a single counter spell in this deck." And they're like, "What are you doing then?" Like,
Yeah.
and then I just try to show them the deck. If my deck can do its thing for one turn, I've essentially like I've got a personal win under my belt. I don't
Nice.
really need to win the game. I just like when my engines fire off.
Dang, that's awesome. Do you just do like mono blue type stuff or just like combo?
Uh I'm pretty much almost always run multicolor stuff. So Soul Tie is probably my favorite
That's a
combo,
good.
just because it has like the best colors. It just has the best stuff to
Oh
do.
yeah. That's
Um,
yeah.
Bant is like this is a weird thing, but like Bant is like my favorite like decks to like look at when they're laid out. Like
Yeah.
because they always have like the brightest and like coolest art. I feel like all my decks are very like murky and like demure and like they're all like blacks and purples, and I'm like, all the cards kind of look the same, but it's
Yeah.
whatever. I just built the tiger guy. What's his name? I think I have him right here in front of me. No, I don't.
Um, the
The Bant tiger dude that spits out the 2/2 cats with forest walk whenever you play legendaries. He came out in like the Commander Masters or something.
oh,
But
yeah.
looking through the fanning through the deck, I was like, oh my god, I forgot cards could be bright. I forgot that like cards could actually have oranges and yellows on them, and
Yeah,
yeah, I love it.
that's fun. Yeah, I Bant is one of those that I'm like, I really want to play this, but then I like get bored of it.
Yeah, 100%
But
understandable.
yeah,
It's like
Sultai, I
when I
think
don't have
is my
access to
favorite.
black, I'm like, there's not enough like cool stuff I can do.
Yeah, like I can't use my graveyard.
Yeah, I still have 40 life the whole game. Like, can I just like pay some life and do some stuff?
Oh man, oh that's great. I love plays in Commander where you're like, I'm gonna pay 20 life to
It's the
do a
best.
lot of things,
That
and
is the
then
best.
they kill themselves.
Yep. Or like as an additional cost to play this, pay life, and then it gets countered.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, sorry.
Got him.
I thought you said you run no counters. I run one. I run one.
Just the one, I promise.
That's it. That's it. Maybe some stuff that gets it back, but
Yeah. So, what's your least favorite card?
oh, least favorite card.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. I think I have two answers. I think like
Right.
least favorite card to play against, just because of how many times I've had to play against it, and it's just a pain, is probably Deadeye Navigator. I
Mm,
just cannot stand that card. It's just one of those cards where like the fact that it's dropped so significantly in price and people like act like it's not a threat anymore like upsets me. I'm like that will win you the game when it hits play. Like you have a Peregrine Drake, you have anything like that, and you just go infinite and you win the game. Or any ETB. If you have any ETB in like 4 mana, like most of the time getting two of those ETBs off, you're probably gonna win. So that card probably actually having to play against it. Armageddon's probably like my least favorite card.
mm,
Like I just hate land destruction. I just don't think that's like appealing at all to me. It's like the bottom of my list of things I want to be doing because I want my deck to like win against the best version of the deck I'm playing against.
yeah. No,
And it's like if you have
I
no
agree.
lands, then nah.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know. I think single land destruction is decent.
Yeah,
Like I
I
don't
think
mind
it's
running single
necessary. Like
land.
Maze of
Yeah.
Ith could like shut your deck completely down. Like you need a way to get
Yeah.
rid of it.
Oh yeah, or like an Urborg or something. You got
Yeah,
to kill that thing.
100%. Then you got the guy that's like, oh, that's why I run Blood Moon.
Yeah.
And you're like,
You're like I'm
that,
gonna kill your Blood Moon too.
yeah, yeah, I'm gonna kill that. I don't think that's why you run it.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Do you Okay, so then what's your least favorite color to play?
Um, this is gonna be the weirdest answer. It's probably like red or white. Like as weird as that is, because white was such like and it's just because I've switched like what my main format is. Like
Yeah.
standard, I white's definitely my favorite, but in Commander, which is pretty much all I play now, I just don't enjoy white particularly. Like outside of like the Swords to Plowshares and Path to Exiles, like I'm not super fond of the cards that I'm playing. Um, but like three color, I really like white. Like if white is like a part of the three color deck, I think it's super solid. But like in two color, one color decks, mono white, white something else, I'm not a huge fan of those.
Yeah. I agree. I think white is it's a hard it's a hard color to play, but I do like a lot of what it does.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's definitely better in a 60 card format where you can run 4 copies of something,
Oh man,
and then because it gets really out of hand really fast.
it does.
Yeah, commanders, like, I get my thing and then I get a bunch of little creatures, and then someone's like, all creatures get -5. You're like, okay,
Yeah,
well,
and you're like,
there
well,
goes everything.
every single game of a white or red deck I play, it's like turn 3 or 4, and I'm like, how many cards do you have? And the opponent's like 6, 7, and I'm like, I have 3. And I'm like, how do I have 3? I've played lands and like 1 mana rock. I'm like, how do I have 3 cards?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard one. I really want to like white.
Yeah, I wish they'd give us a reason.
But
They're
yeah,
coming. They're coming close. Like the Lord of
yeah,
the Rings, that new enchantment. I can't remember what it's called. It's like 1 in a white, and when it comes in, you get a counter on it for each creature you control. And then at the beginning of your end step, you remove a counter and draw a card.
nice.
I was like, that's awesome. I was like, give us some more stuff like
That's
that. Like
yeah,
a little mini Phyrexian arena for white. I'll take that.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think Norn's Wellspring, I think, is a white one
Oh,
that just came out where you like
that's
you
another
scry
great one.
one and then you can remove the oil counters to draw cards. I think it
100%.
makes sense, and I think it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Benny Brax. Like they're trying to like make some more cards that are like, here's it just it's always weird to me that they're like they like hand you a thing and they're like, here's white doing this very basic thing that all the other colors can do. And then it's
Yeah,
got like a little chain connected to it that you're like, what's this? What's this heavy chain that's connected to it? And you're like, oh, you just have to pay for life, or you just have to do this. And I'm like, why do I have to do something? Like no other color has to do something. Like,
yeah. Like what? Why does an opponent have to have more things than me to do this? But
yeah, why? It's like, oh, because you're white, you're a creature deck. It's like, but the blue deck doesn't have to have more cards in his
that
hand.
doesn't. Yeah, or like
Like it, no other hoops for any other colors.
or like black. Sure, you pay life, but like that's thematic,
And it's good a lot of the time.
and it's good. Or like
Like,
red is like I get a hasty thing, I get the impulse draw, so I'm gonna
mhm,
lose those cards if I don't use them, but I could still look ahead 3 or 4 cards.
100%.
And
Everything's got its own thing. I feel like white is just kind of like we're knights. I'm like,
yeah,
that's cool. Wow.
we got lots of creatures.
Yeah, sick. Awesome.
But honestly, my least favorite thing about white is like the oppressive type stuff that's like, oh,
Mhm.
you can't cast spells on my turn. You can't
Oh,
cast anything unless you pay 1. You can't.
they made white
Uh,
so easy to like hate. Like
yeah,
they're like, here's all the stacks pieces, and that's it. That's the only thing you guys can do good. Like
it's yeah, it's so frustrating. And
board wipe, stacks, and removal.
yeah,
And it's like that's the 3
yeah,
most annoying things you could do. Like
yeah, it's good. You got the most land destruction, the most board wipes, the most
spot
stacks,
removal,
the most yeah,
most
most
everything.
spot removal. Yeah. So you're like, well, I'm just gonna hate the guy that's playing that deck because
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to murder.
it's stopping me from playing my game. Like
Yeah.
even more so than blue almost. Like straight up blue, sure. Like if you're like a hardcore like counterspell player, but like a lot of the time I feel like white players just like accidentally do that. Like where they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I've got 5 pieces of removal in my hand. Like I don't want to do this, but like kill that, kill that, kill this, kill
Yeah.
that."
It's like if that's the only thing you got, then
Yeah, I'll do it.
yeah.
And then
But
it cuts to me and I'm like, "Why do I have 2 cards in my hand?"
yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I was gonna that actually goes into my next question, which was what's the saltiest thing you can think of in any sort of commander game? When we just talked about like the salty type stuff there.
Yeah. The land destruction is such an easy answer for me because it's like that's just always going to be something that everyone at the table's like, come on, like please. Uh, honestly, I if this isn't even like a hard thing to set up. This isn't even like a hard salty situation, if you would call it that. But like expropriate and like time
Mm,
stretch are
yeah.
like extraordinarily like salty feeling, like where that you play them and I'm like, oh, you just spent 10 mana to like win. Like, and I'm like, like I just like it. I hate that. Like, it's the worst feeling. And then they're playing like Kess or something, and you're
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, like you're gonna do this again. Like, I hate the extra turns are probably the saltiest thing I can think
Really?
of because they're always daisy chained into more extra turns.
Yeah. What I like, so I've got an extra turns deck. It's Modomai the Ageless.
Madonna
Um,
the
on
Ageless.
he's from Theros. When he deals combat damage, you take an extra turn.
Oh,
but you can't take extra. But you can't if you can't take extra turns
On extra
within
turns.
on extra turns. So if
I
you deal
gotcha.
combat damage again, it doesn't. It
Yeah.
won't trigger again. Um. So it's. I've heard people say about that deck, like every time I play it, they're like, "Well, it's not like a Narset where you're just turn
Yeah.
after turn after turn after
Oh
turn."
my
It's like
god.
I can do that, but I have to actually work for it. It's not just
Awesome.
I'm just not cheating stuff out. I'm like, okay, maybe I can swing at somebody because he's only a 4/4,
Yeah.
but he's got flying, and so I'm like, okay, who doesn't have flying? I'm just gonna take an extra turn off of you, and
Yep.
then I have another turn to be like, I guess I'll get a creature, but I can't do anything.
Yeah.
So
Just
it's
kind
like,
of assemble a board state a little bit more and
yeah,
just pass it around. Like I like
mhm,
stuff like that. When you have to earn like those wins like that, I'm all for it. Like I just feel like making it to turn 10 isn't like enough. Like that's not like the hoop to jump through to be like, you earned it. Go ahead and play that 10 drop. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like it just feels bad for me. Like even like Portal to Phyrexia, I'm considering taking out of my Sauron deck because it feels very similar to those. Like where I'm like, I kind of just win. Like I wipe everyone's creatures off, and then I'm gonna start just ripping all the big stuff out of everyone's grave.
Is that the 9 mana
Yep,
artifact? Yeah.
yep. Picked one of those up for Sauron. Played it twice. Both games I played it, I was like, I was like, this kind of feels bad. This is rough. Like
Yeah, yeah. It's that's one of those, and it's so easy to get out because if you're playing artifacts, like
so
that's
easy.
out turn 4.
Let's get a Mycosynth Lattice and then just
Yeah.
do that and Blightsteel, and you're good.
Hmm. Yeah, that's rough.
Very much so.
Yeah, I like the wins that are like I really had to work for this.
Yeah. That's why token decks, like, I don't enjoy particularly playing token decks, but I really enjoy like watching people play token decks because you
Yeah.
can just slowly see them like building a board and you're like, okay, he's doing this, then he's got this.
Hmm.
What's the thing what's the cherry on top? And they're like, Cathar's Crusade. You're like, like, you deserve the win. There it is.
You're like,
Like,
oh, I'm screwed.
I know, like, oh my gosh, they're all 8/8. School. It's not good.
Yeah.
Then a
Or,
Chroma's Will or something hits the table.
hmm or like they they wait 12 turns and then they get an Avengers Zendikar card and you're like, oh crap.
I
I
love
got
Avengers
30
so much.
lands, you know.
One of my all-time favorite cards. I absolutely love Avengers Zendikar.
That's a great card.
So good. I like what was the card's name? It came out in original Zendikar. It was the big green white worm that wipes the board when it attacks.
Nova Blast Worm.
Nova Blast Worm.
Yeah.
I still remember pulling one of those. Me and my cousin were sitting next to each other at the draft, and I was probably 15, 16. And I open it and I just like look at him with his face and nudge his shoulder and show it to him. And he's like, what? In the middle of the draft. And everybody looks over at him and they're like, what'd you pull? And I was like, Nova Blast Worm. And everyone else is like, oh, okay. And like goes back to their decks. And like to me, I was like, what? This is amazing.
This
Like,
is incredible.
this is the best thing you could play. And then it just gets like Doom Bladed the first game I play it. I'm
Yeah.
like, damn,
Yeah.
an important lesson to learn.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I did a game where I was like I'm probably not going to win against these guys. It was like I just kind of jumped into a group. I'm like I'm just
Mhm.
going to play group hug. And I played it was like Hunted Wumpus or something, and I was like, okay,
Hunted
everybody can just
Wumpus.
put a creature from their hand onto the battlefield. I think it was Hunted Wumpus. I can't remember.
Hell
It's
yeah.
like everybody just put something out for free, and the one guy's like, World Spine Worm. I was like,
Go.
everybody
He
else was
pulled a
very mad
Reed
at me.
Duke on you, huh? Not good.
I mean, I had fun because I was like, I'm not planning on winning. So
Oh, 100%.
you
Group hugs,
guys,
like, I'm going for second place. Like,
yeah. And then it was like 30 damage on turn 4 and to someone. Yeah,
good.
they were pretty mad at me.
Nah, that's the job.
Yeah. Okay, so what so we kind of been talking about this a little bit with the like the Magic community and like games you play and stuff like that. What can we as players do you think, to I don't know, make that better and less salty? and
To make like the play
um,
environment more fun.
yeah,
There's like the obvious like trying to like just avoid stuff that's like clearly not fun for other players like the but I feel like that's kind of already being done. Like I can't even think of the last time I played against Armageddon or anything like that.
hmm
um I think it's up to the individual, as weird of an answer as that is. Like I don't think it's up for the environment to like adjust itself for you. Like I think you should just be the type of person that's like, I'm here to have fun. Like you should always have that group hug mentality of like, I might not win this. Like my deck's gonna fire off and do something awesome and big, and like that's why I'm playing this format. You know what I mean? Like if you want
yeah,
to like get really like professional and like tournament savvy and all that, like play modern, play stuff like that. Um, or just play CEDH. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like if you're having the issue of like I'm sick of people winning on turn two and like wiping my board of all my lands and like doing all this stuff. It's like it sounds like you're
hmm
sitting at a CEDH table. Like that's
yeah,
not you're playing the wrong format.
yeah,
Um, I think it just comes up to the individual. I think a lot of games that I've came in last place, I've had like marginally more fun than someone that came in second and like walks away from the table upset.
yeah,
So like I think it's just up for the person, honestly.
yeah. I think that's a good answer. So yeah, you should definitely have a good attitude when you're with other people. Um, I think it's also, and I think that too goes with the individual too. If you have the mindset of this deck is meant to screw everybody over and everybody's going to hate me and I'm going to love it, like
Yeah.
you're clearly going to be the problem at the table.
Super good point. Like no matter what deck you're sitting down with, like if you're sitting down with the deck that's not like a top tier, I'm trying to win deck, like then you might not win. Like so, like you're
Yeah.
fine. Like if that's the outcome, if you're sitting down with a deck that's like this is the craziest deck and it's gonna win, like and
hmm
you walk away upset, it's like that's your own mindset that did that. Like you're the
Yeah.
one that's like locking it in. That reminds me of a story. I worked at a local card shop for like a year, like just
Yeah.
kind of like organizing cards and stuff for them. And we had this guy walk in, and he's sorry about that.
No, you're
I got
good.
something in my throat.
You're good.
He walks in and he's talking about how all the people he plays with like are upsetting him, and I played D&D and I'm a part of this magic group, and they always rag on me and they do this and they just they hate me, and like he's talking to me for like a half hour, an hour about just like how like woe is me type stuff of like these
hmm
people don't like me, and I'm like, oh, that sucks, man. And I'm like I have a deck here if you want to play, and he's like, oh yeah, I can run back to my house, I'll grab my deck and we can play some, and I'm like, awesome. And he comes back and he's got like a full on CEDH like elf ball with like Gaia's Cradle and like all this stuff in it. And I'm like, oh, in my head, I'm like, this is why the people like get upset with you. Like they're not mad
Yeah.
at you as a person. Like in game, you're playing stuff like this where it's like, we're trying to have fun playing Commander. And like, because some of the people he was referencing, I've seen in the shop before. And I'm like, those people
hmm
don't play CEDH. And I'm like, so
Yeah.
this is why it's getting upset. And then a couple other people came in, and we all sit down at the table, and he's like, I spent like $5,000 on this deck, and he's doing the whole thing where he's like hyping up the deck a lot, and everyone at the table's like, oh, cool, and immediately like marks him as the enemy, and
Yeah.
he plays Gaia's Cradle for turn one, and someone Nature's claims it. And he's like, why would you nature claim my Gaia's Cradle? And we're like, you just said you were going to win on turn two. And we're like, we're not going to not kill the thing you play turn one. And he like gets up and leaves upset. And I'm like,
It's
so it's
like,
the same thing. It's like that's your fault. Like you sat down to the table expecting a win. Like you
yeah.
didn't expect to play a game, which is like not what this is.
And if you come in all cocky and stuff, it's like, yeah, everybody's immediately gonna target you.
Oh yeah,
Like,
100%. It's like you're not allowed to be like the alpha and the guy that's like beating the corner at the same time. Like, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like I'm like you're complaining about the group not liking you, but you're also like, yeah, I win every game. I'm gonna win this one.
yeah,
Just doesn't add up to me.
yeah.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh yeah. There's like the Titanic was unsinkable.
Yeah, 100%. It was.
So is the sub that went to get. Oh, sorry. Okay. Well,
No,
we'll
too
not.
early. Too early. We'll,
Too early.
we'll put
Okay.
this in the vault and then we'll bring it back out later when it's ripe and ready.
Yeah. Yeah. That goes. Yeah. Sometimes I play with people that are like, I don't know, we're playing and everybody at the table can clearly see they're bored. You're like, dude, like, why don't you just win right now? You can kill
Yeah.
all our creatures and then you can just infinite combo right now. And then it'll just sit there and say, well, I just want to see my deck play out.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, can we
You'll
just
get to
start a
do
new
that
one?
next game.
Yeah, I like
Yeah. One of these games, your deck will do that. You don't have to like
yeah,
hold a sausage to do it.
yeah, and it's
I that's another like one of my like cemented in like beliefs of like playing Magic is I've had this happen multiple times at like sealed events, at pre-releases, at drafts, just playing casually. I've had it happen like every format you can think of, where I'm sitting across from someone and I see a way for them to kill me, and they're like not doing it, and they'll be like, I guess I need blockers. I'll just pass, and I'll be like, I would swing with that. And then I bounce that one card to your hand last turn, which when it enters lets you deal 1 damage. And they're like, oh my god, it does. And I'm like, okay, do that. I'm dead.
yeah,
Let's go to game two. Like I'm like I
yeah,
hate winning a game when like someone could have won. It is my
hmm
least favorite thing on the planet. Like
yeah,
I will never take that win.
yeah. There's yeah, I've definitely been in that situation.
My brother was in it. The
Yeah,
I got him into Magic recently. My
nice.
older brother, and he came to a sealed event with us, and someone played a thing that said target player sacrifices a permanent, and he had a
hmm
board full of lands, and he had an old gnawbone in play, and he
Yeah,
sacks the old gnawbone. And then he passes to the guy, and he goes. And at the end of the game, the guy's like, "Oh, permanent is anything. You could have sacked one of those lands," and like walks away. And I was like, I was like, "Come on, you should have told him that." And I was
yeah,
like I don't know. It's just I get it because it's like a tournament. You have a chance to win prizes, but on the same like if we're weighing things out, it's also like a small town tournament where you don't win crazy prizes. So it's like it's
yeah.
not that big of a deal.
Like
Like
you're gonna win a couple packs. Like it's not
yeah,
huge,
like you might as well teach someone something about the game.
especially yeah, especially for new players. Where I don't know
100%.
because I've
That's
been
my
in.
favorite thing. Like when
Oh
you
yeah,
see a new player start to get it, it's like the best feeling on the planet. Like
yeah.
my brother has the who's the who's the Esper Sphinx girl that came out? When people attack, you conspire,
Um.
like Rael or something
Oh
like that.
yeah,
Something like
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
We were looking at her and we were building one of his first decks together, one of his first commander decks. And I was like, you should make this girl like reanimator. So like when you connive, you're discarding big creatures and then you can reanimate them back and all that. And he's like, oh, it's cool. And we're playing like one of the first games and he's like got like 4 or 5 lands out. And he's like, I can't play any of this stuff in my hand. And I'm like, really? And he's like, none of it. And he's like, they all cost 6, 7, 8, 5, 6. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, none of it you can play. And he's like, I can play this one. And he's like, but it doesn't. And he starts reading it. And he's like, oh, hold on a second. He plays this card where it's like, as an additional cost, you sack something or you discard something. And he discards a
hmm
big creature. He has Soul of Innistrad in play and he
Oh, nice.
activates it to get back the big creature. That big creature is like, it's like a karmic guide or something that
Yeah.
like daisy chains, and he gets
hmm
that one and he's like, oh my gosh, hold on, then I can get this one, and then I can play my boots on this thing and swing at you, and I'm like, you're
Nice.
getting it, cool. And like the next game, like he was just the whole game popping off like that, and like it was my, I love that because like
That's awesome.
if you don't explain that stuff to people, one, they might not be like experiencing the game to its fullest, but like they might like stop playing the game, like because
Yeah.
they're like, this game's not fun, like I just sit here with cards in my hand, like
Yeah. No, I get that. I like. Yeah. I think that's partially why I target a lot of my videos towards newer players
mm-hmm.
because it's just more fun. You're like the
Oh
new
man.
players aren't jaded like
Oh
like
man, they're not at
us
all.
old
That
players.
that's so funny you say that because I wrote down the other day like who's my target audience, like who like what am I making the videos for, and I wrote like old Magic boomers that are trying to like reignite the spark for the game, and
Yeah.
I'm like perfect. So like the daily card highlights, I'm like, yeah, you could run like Ristic Study, and they're like, oh, I've ran it in every deck, I've ran Ristic Study a million times, and you're like, but what
hmm
about this one? And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
wait a second, I'll run that. That'd be pretty
Hold
good.
on.
Like I just love the idea of like someone that's played forever seeing something and being like, I want to build a deck. Like after not
Yeah.
building a deck for like ever. I think that's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I I think that's good. I mean, I'm definitely not an old school player. So people
Mhm.
have been playing since 93, right? And
Oh my gosh.
so yeah, if you see that or I love hearing about guys who are like, yeah, I actually used to play with a guy at the old game store I used to go to. He's like, I've done every draft event since like Mirrodin.
That's
I was
crazy.
like the original Mirrodin. I was like, holy cow.
Imagine how much cool promo stuff he has.
Oh yeah.
That is
So
so
much
cool.
stuff.
There, I
Yeah.
wish I would have kept so much of the old stuff from when I was little, like the old
Hmm.
pre-cons back during like Guild Pact and Ravnica. They would say like they would have a little level meter at the top for how
Oh,
challenging the
really?
deck was, and they would all
Nice.
be like cranked to the red and say like expert on them. And me and my cousin would be like, "Oh, are there any like intermediate decks?" Like, there's like it's just like a label to make you want to buy it. Like we were looking for easier decks. It was so
Hmm.
funny. Like, but it's just funny the marketing how it's changed so much. It
Yeah.
looked so like D&D esque back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's come a long way. I think it's
It is
in some ways it's good, in some ways it's bad, but
for sure. So is life.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, this has been great.
Yeah, it was.
Been great. Is there anything that I don't know? Is there anything you want to say? Anything we as the Magic community should know?
Just keep hanging on. You know what I mean? I think the game will get better. I think the community is going to get better. And I think the content creators, like the next generation of the next wave of us doing content is awesome. And I'm super excited to see where all of us go. Um, but yeah, that's about it. I'm just excited looking at the
Nice.
horizon of the game.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm excited too. I think it's a perfect time for new players to get into it as well.
100%.
Um, but yeah, well, thanks for joining me, and yeah, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and ring the bell for Nick's channel, as well as manfred+magic, and we'll both catch you guys, Nick daily and me weekly, for your weekly dose of magic.
Heck yeah.